Hey guys, it's Lisa and welcome to my channel. Today I have some bad news for some of you and hopefully some good news for others. We've sold our business and because of that I am able to retire early and I say that lightly. We've got so many other projects going on right now. We're building a wood shop for my husband and also selling a house that we have. I've been staging it and getting it ready to sell. So it seems like I've been busier since I have retired than I was when I was working. Now, although right now I still do have an outlet for my items to sell in the shop that I sold, I'm consigning those. I'm trying to get rid of the smalls and go with more of the larger wood crafts that my husband and I will be making together. And it's just easier for them to keep up with that way. And it kind of gears toward what they'll be doing in the shop better than my smalls do. And but one of the big things is that now that we've sold the property, I live in a small subdivision, and I just don't have storage to collect and work on all the thrift flips. So I have been struggling lately to decide what to do with my channel, because I've been praying so many times to God to show me the direction for my channel. I'm not concerned with making money with it, but what I want to do is not lose the platform that I have, and because I prayed even in the beginning that He would show me a way to glorify Him through it. And in crafting, I can do that somewhat by adding scripture in here and there. But in my life now, I am really struggling with the idea that I need to dive deeper into the scripture and take it more seriously. Because I think we fail to realize that we have such an awesome God-given, I guess, privilege of having His Word right in our hands, and not everyone has that. So I just feel like at my age especially, but even at any age, we need to take that more seriously. And when I was praying the other day, God told me, and I'm not one of these people who say that God speaks to me audibly, but I just was really, really impressed that He was telling me that He has blessed me with so much, and He has given me the awesome opportunity of being able to retire early. And since I have retired, I feel so much guilt that I've just been busier than I was before I retired. So I just want to use that time. Obviously, I will be helping my husband with the wood crafts. And I think I'll enjoy that, and I'll share some of that on my channel. But what I really, really want to do is use my time to glorify God and to leave lasting memories for my children when I'm gone. And all these crafts that I make, if I sell them, that's really the only use out of them. Sometimes I give them as gifts. But our tastes vary when it comes to crafting, and you may give somebody something that they just don't know what they'll do with, but they hang on to it because maybe they don't want to hurt your feelings or whatever. And I have just really decided that I want to get into a lot more of the junk journaling. And the reason is because, and I don't want just regular junk journaling, I want it with a purpose. I love the look of people gluing things down on pages and just layering them and making them look beautiful. And I have done some of that in the past, and I do really, really love the look. But these have the ability to become such mementos that are precious to our children when we move on. When we lost our mother a few years ago, I was just, what I treasured the most wasn't her decor or her possessions, any of that. What I was just really, really so happy to get was her memories, whether it be through pictures or little poems that she had written, especially about the Lord, because those gave me comfort that, although I knew she was, but that gave me comfort that she is in heaven. And if we can give anything to our children that is of value, it is that. And again, I know some of you are going to be very disappointed that I'm not going to be doing many thrift flips. Now, as I'm working on, we're getting ready to build our daughter's home, and I'm going to help her decorate it, and my other granddaughters, and even things that I'm working on here around the house. I may occasionally put a thrift flip in, just if it's something that I'm working on personally. But again, I don't have the time anymore. My husband is really hoping that I can spend more time with him now, and I want that also. But occasionally I will do a thrift flip. Again, I just don't have, even if I wanted to do them, I just don't have the storage now. If you're a crafter, especially if you resell your items, you realize that crafting takes up so much space. Now, junk journaling does to a degree, but paper is flat and much easier to store, and everything that I need for it, I can keep in my craft room. And obviously, I'm still going to keep paints and things like that, but I'm really, really having to downsize. And in doing that, I feel like I can get closer to God, and that is definitely my heart's desire. And the reason that I want to do these junk journals, this is going to be my personal one here, and this is just going to be one of the pages. And but I have got, and I admire those of you who have organized your pictures throughout your lifetime. I have always wanted to do that, but never took the time to do it. And as time went on, my pictures just grew and grew and grew to the point that I just was afraid to even try to tackle them. And it's still that way now. But what I'm going to do is go through my pictures and keep the ones that are the most special to me and put them in books and organize them. And I'm going to use these junk journals for a lot of those photos. But the ones that you have so many duplicates for one thing, but then also ones that maybe you just don't connect with as much. And those, I'm going to let all my daughters go through them and my granddaughters and get the pictures that they want. They're going to end up with them anyway, so I may as well go ahead and give them to them and then organize the ones that I do have in a way that shows them when I'm gone that how much they meant to me. So that is the reason for my junk journaling. again, I'm going to be doing other things, even around the house and up at the property where we're doing the wood shop. We're also doing a lot of other things up there that we can enjoy as a family. So I'll share a lot of that here and there, but for a while, for the most part, until I get these organized, it's going to be junk journaling. And I'm going to do a very small junk journal for each of my grandchildren with a few pictures of them with us and just some little thoughts and things like that, and put those up for Christmas next year. And I know Christmas is a long way off, but that's just some little something that I want to do to add to their gift. And I think that it could be very precious to them when we're gone. So enough about all that. This is going to be a scripture journal. And I just, again, I want to get better and better about my Bible study. Because what I do now is I get up in the mornings and read my Bible and listen to someone speak on it also, and just have my time with the Lord. But it just seems like I just don't put enough into it, I feel like. And so what I'm going to do is, with my scripture journal, is as I read things that really resonate with me, I'll do a page on them. So each of these pages in this journal is just going to be about scripture. And then I'm going to, at some point, start a personal journal where I just kind of put different things in it. That's going to wait for a while because I'm going to work on some of my little grandchildren journals. Now, put somewhat of a neutral base on this page. And for my pages, if you haven't watched my last video where I did my granddaughter's journal, I put I'm using regular copy paper as the base of most of my pages. And so I'm making my book be the size for that. And that was just more to save time, because when you fold a regular copy paper, then that would be the size of your pages. And then obviously you have 2 pages here, or 4 if you count both sides. But I want this one to be neutral but have some soft colors in it. And this journal, although with Bristol's journal, I stuck to a certain color scheme. But with this one, I'm just going to make each page its own, and that way I'm not limited, and whatever I find on that scripture or that will go with that scripture, it will work in this book. And so I'm really excited about doing this one because I've done a few pages so far, and I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm not sure how many I'll fit into this video just yet, but I'm going to fit what I can in. Now, I'll share later making a cover for this, which I'm just going to make out of a regular book, but then I'm going to dress up the outside side of it. But I haven't really, at this point, committed to the outside of it. I have some sort of a neutral base on it, but I'm not finished at this point. So when I get that finished, I'll share that. I just really don't want to commit to it yet because I'm just going to kind of decide as I go what look that I want. Plus, I don't, at this point, have a lot of junk journal materials, but you really don't have to have them. That's why they're called junk journals. You can just use junk. And at some point, I'm going to do one that is just using junk, not purchasing anything for it. But for the outside of this one, I actually found, and I hope that you guys are aware of it. If you're going to do junk journaling, then I'm sure you've if you're aware, you've already bought. But Shein, Shein, people have been telling me about them for years, and I have some ladies at church that buy all their clothing there, and they get super, super good deals. Now, you will occasionally, it is from China, and occasionally you're going to get poor quality clothing, but for the most part, they have been extremely impressed with the value. And so I got to thinking, if they have such a good value on clothing, what about scrapbooking and junk journal materials? And I am so glad that I looked, because I just ordered tons of stuff and didn't have very much money in that at all. And I'm going to show you. Now, I've actually ordered twice so far, and I haven't received anything yet because of it coming from China. It takes a lot longer to come, so it's like 2 weeks out when you order it. So when that comes, I'm going to share that haul and tell you what I paid for it, and you won't believe how little I paid for it. Now, I may get it and not be happy at all with it, but I can't imagine because when it comes to these junk journaling materials, you can tell what you're getting pretty much. So now back to this page. Now, I have some rice paper here, and I got this rice paper from Dixie Belle quite a while back. And now, although I'm not going to be doing a lot of thrift flips, I'm going to keep a lot of my materials, and these rice papers are one of them because, for one thing, even if I don't use them on a piece of furniture, which I may at some point, I can tear them up in pieces like this and use them in my journals. Again, I'm so sorry for those of you who will be disappointed with this change, but I just feel like I have to do this. I feel like God is telling me that He's given me this opportunity to retire early, and what am I going to do with it? And I just don't feel like I was doing much with it. And maybe I got off to a bad start because of my knee, but now I'm all better, and I still feel like I need to be doing so much more. Now, the theme of this page is going to be our words, and I think that that's part of why I chose very soft colors, because obviously our words as Christians need to be very soft. Now, what I did was just took a script stamp and stamped it here and there on the page just to add some interest to the areas that needed interest. And now I'm using these little frames that are made of cardstock, and I ordered these from Amazon, and I will try to link these in the description. Most of what I'll be using I won't link because I'm going to be using all those items from Shein, and I'm just going to share their link so that you can go on and find just all kinds of things that suit your style. Now, for this frame, I've stamped some scripture on a piece of book page that doesn't have any writing on it. And I did that because I like the age of these pages. And I'm just kind of adding dots here and there where the shape of the frame is so that I can cut it just slightly smaller than that. And it will be large enough to glue to the back of the frame, but small enough that it doesn't show on the outside. And the scripture that I'm using here is Proverbs 16:24. And I just happen to have this in a stamp. And the wooden stamp that I used for this, I don't know if I thrifted it or bought it at Hobby Lobby or on Amazon years ago, but they're really, really hard to find now. So I usually just buy the clear sets of stamps, and I will link some of those in the description. Now here I've just cut a heart out of a book page, and I'm antiquing around the edge of this because I want to add this to a bookmark. And I'll also link the distress ink that I use on this. And distress ink is something that I would have a hard time junk journaling without. I guess I would be able to do it, but I feel like it just adds so much. Now I'm adding some little scraps of cloth behind and on top of this little heart, and I think I end up not even using those, but you'll see me make certain things that maybe I won't use because, again, I'm just trying to make decisions as I go. And this little piece here that I'm going to end up putting on a pocket is something that was gifted to me, so I'm not sure where that came from. I've seen them in stores. I think I've seen these in Joann's, but they're a little pricey. Again, I think you're going to find so many good deals on Shein that will make scrapbooking or junk journaling very affordable. But here I am cutting some lined journal paper the size that I need it because I'm going to make a little notepad, and on that I'm going to write some little scripture, and then I'm going to connect them together. So I think I ended up with about 4 scriptures on this, and I just glued those to some cardstock after I antiqued around the edges. And I decided to make the pocket first, so I just glued that little piece onto some cardstock and glued the cardstock onto the page. But I wanted to make sure that my little booklet would fit down into that pocket, so that's why I decided to go ahead and do that first. Now I decided here that I wanted to make my little heart pop, so I glued it to a piece of cardstock, and now I'm just cutting a very, very thin border out for it. Sorry, Winston is getting in the way. I don't know if he likes to sit on my things to show me that he thinks they are his, since they are in his room, or if he just wants a little bit of connection, but usually he doesn't last long. I have a little chair that he likes to sit in, but he won't sit in it unless I pull that chair over near me. So I just pulled that chair over near me, and that's where he usually stays. So that's going to make this pop a little bit more, but still keep the colors soft enough. And I'm going to put this on a bookmark. So what I did was distressed around the edges, and then I'm going to glue it to that piece of cardstock. So I glued that onto the cardstock and cut it, and now I'm distressing around the edges, and that will get glued onto a bookmark. And then I finally decided where I wanted to glue my pocket. Now, there are stronger glues for scrapbooking, but if you're careful, Elmer's school glue will work just fine. The biggest thing is you have to just be very careful to make a very small bead of glue. And I just don't feel like I need the other glue because mine seemed to hold together really well. What doesn't hold together well in scrapbooking for the most part is hot glue, and I'm not sure why that is. You would think it would hold very good, but I use it to glue things down like fabric and things like that in some areas, and it does work good for that, but for the most part I try to stay away from the hot glue. So one of the best places to find little wording that you can add to your pages is I just go to thrift stores and go through their books. My husband and I like to thrift together, but when I'm looking for books, I like to go by myself so I can just kind of slowly look through the books, and you can get a very good value and get lots of pictures and wordings and just all sorts of things that you can add into your journals. Now, since I have glued these onto cardstock, I decided instead of making a little notebook with them that I would just punch a hole in each of the corners and tie them together. And that will just add a little texture and character to my book. And it's a very simple way to put them together. Now, a lot of the ribbon that I use is not actual ribbon. This is just some old bed sheets that I tore into small strips and dyed them with some watered down paint. And that's just a very cheap way for your trims, and I feel like it just gives it a really good look. You can also do this with sheer curtains, and I think that sheer curtains work even better. Now, I wanted to dress up the front of this just a little bit, so I just took a stamp and stamped some little flowers in the corner of the bottom, and I did that with some green ink, and I felt like that added just what this needed. I think that the more little touches like this that you do to your page, the more interesting your book is, and the more that you'll enjoy it. Now here, I didn't realize I decided to go ahead and stamp on each of these pages. And because I had a little bee stamp, I stamped it beside the little frame because it speaks of honeycomb. I thought that would just be a good little touch. And then I also had another little stamp that looked like honeycomb, and just kind of stamped it faintly behind the bee. And although I haven't bought transfers in a long time, I have just little bits of transfers that will be perfect to add into these little books. Now the bookmark that I'm going to be adding, I wanted to make it in kind of the style of a pamphlet. So I took this piece of cardstock that's printed on both sides and folded it in half, and then cut the corners off the top to make a bookmark. But first, I had some of this rice paper that I just did some journaling on, and I'm just going to glue that inside of the bookmark. And then I just snipped both the corners off the top to make it resemble a bookmark. And then I punched a hole in it, and then put some little hole reinforcers, and I just used the little paper hole reinforcers, and then just kind of antique them a little bit with distress ink. But before I put my hole, I decided to glue some of a book page to the inside. I didn't really like the print that was on the inside of this, but the colors worked well. So I used that kind of as a background, and then I cut from one of my books some script that I could add, and antiqued around the edges of it and glued that right over the top of the book page. And the words that I put is, "May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing to you, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer." And then I glued the heart to the front of the bookmark and kind of let it hang off one side just a little bit. And then I put the word encourage on the heart. And I'm calling this a bookmark, but it actually looks more like a tag, and I guess it is more of a tag, especially since it opens up. And here I've just added those hole reinforcers, and then I'm going over them with some distress ink. And I also, at the top of the other page, put the words. Words have the ability to uplift and inspire. Now, to make my other pocket, I just took some cardstock and tore somewhat of a corner And then I'm going to glue that onto the corner, leaving the top space open. So I'll just kind of antique around those edges that I've torn, and then glue only to the outside corner so that I'll be able to fit some things down in that little pocket. Now, I wanted to do plenty of space because I want to be able to add things in as I learn more things on that subject. So make these journals if you're making yours for yourself. I think it's good to make them to use, or even if you're making them for someone else. But I think the good thing is that you can just continue to add to them. And again, when you're gluing these little pockets on, just make sure to glue right against that very edge. And make sure that you have full coverage on your glue and you don't have any little areas that will come apart. Now for my next page, the topic is going to be His creation, God's creation, declaring His majesty. Because we can look all around us and there's no denying that there is a God, and that God is a God of order and a God of love and a God of infinite wisdom. And it amazes me that he could just create a generic world where we just had what we need to get by, and that's all that we need really, is just the basics. But He gives us so much more, and just looking at creation and just that He would share that with us and give that beauty here, even though He doesn't want us to love this world, but He gives us so many things to enjoy during our short stay here. Now, because the art that I found to go on this page has some pretty blues in it, I decided to add some scrapbook paper that had some of that color blue in it. Now what I want to do is make a little, I guess you would call it maybe a page slide. I haven't done junk journaling long enough to know a lot of these terms, so I'm just kind of winging it. But folding it like this is not only going to neaten the edges, but it's going to give this some stability, and that's what we need for this page slide. Now essentially it's just going to wrap around the page, but obviously this is not long enough, and that's fine because I'm going to kind of dress up the front anyway. So I'm going to add on to that. So I'll just fold some flaps at the top and the bottom, and then glue my other pieces onto that. And I'm making this bottom a little bit longer because I want to use that part as a pocket. And because some of this is going to be showing, I'm going ahead, and I didn't really like the crispness of this blue, so I'm using some antiquing ink and just kind of going over it, or distress ink, and going over it to tone it down some and make it look more like, it almost looks like a blue jean material when you do this. And but because some of those folded parts are going to show, I'm going ahead, because at this point I'm not certain what exactly is going to be showing, so I'm distressing all around all the edges. And here is the gorgeous artwork that I'm going to use on this. And I found a little Thomas Kincaid book. And the great thing about that book is not only does it have these beautiful pictures of scenery, but it also has some scripture. So I was able to use a lot of that also. And for this first image, which is going to be the main image on my page, I wanted to leave some of the white around the edges, but I wanted to tear that so that it kind of blends into that page a little bit better. Although I am going to be distressing around the edges, I still like this softer look of the torn edges. Now to finish the slide, I cut some pieces of cardstock that were the width of the slide, but they're a little bit longer, so I'm going to cut them in the length that I want. I don't want them to completely come together in the center because I want some of the image underneath to kind of be peeking through. Now on the top part of this slide, I want it to be that when you open it up and lift it up, you have a little notepad there that you can do some journaling in. So I cut these a little bit larger than, or a little bit longer than this piece of cardstock. And the reason, these are just little journaling papers that I have cut the size that I want. But I made them just a little bit longer so that I could tear that bottom edge and it would go slightly below the cardstock because I didn't want any of that cardstock to show. And then I cut both of them this way, except that on the second one, I cut it just a little bit shorter so that when I add them together, one is just above the other. And as you can see, they're the same size there. But what I did was I moved it up just a little bit and then cut that top off. So I did that same process on each of these so that they would be just staggered just so that you could see each individual layer. And then I just glued each of these pages on one at a time. Now what I could have done is put the whole thing together and then just stapled the top of it. That would have made much more sense, but I just glued one at a time and it worked fine that way also. And then because I wanted the top of this little notepad to actually look like a notepad, I went ahead and cut another strip that I could fold in half and wrap that around the top before I glued it inside the little flap there. And you'll see as I pull that open there that it has that little bit there on the top. But it also only wraps around the back, if that makes sense. And I realized that I glued the first side together before I put anything over the top of that cardstock, and I didn't want that cardstock look there. So I had to be careful here because I needed to glue this down, but also wanted to keep that pocket open because I didn't mention that when I glued that flap down, I just glued along the bottom and up the sides so that that would be a pocket also that you could stick something down in if you wanted. So now I'm just taking that other piece of art and using a small part of it. I'm using the bottom half of it here and gluing that just inside my pocket. And then I cut around the edges and distressed also around the edges. And then I took my little corner cutter and cut on all these corners so that when you wrap it around the page, you'll have a softer edge. And then I just wrapped it around the page so that I could make sure that it fit well. So I glued my art on one side, and I saved what was left from the other image to put on the other side. And because that image really made me think of heaven, I wrote, "The heavens declare His majesty" on the top. And because I really didn't like the brown cardstock, I'm going to cover it with some torn pieces of book pages. Rather than to put just one on there solid, I just kind of wanted the extra dimension from just adding the torn pieces. And then after I got them covered, I just trimmed away the excess and then added some distress ink around the edges. And that will give me a neutral background, and I can add other things to it. And then after I made sure that that sleeve was going to fit around the page well, then I took my hole punch and punched a hole in the end of each page. And then I threaded a piece of string inside those holes and tied a bow to keep it closed. I think that I may have changed the string that I used. I'm not certain of that, but I'm pretty sure that I changed the string on that later. Now, to soften the end of the page and to bring some of that book page look over to the other side, I just ripped some little pieces and glued those onto the edge. I did that for a couple of reasons. One, again, is to soften the edge and bring the look to the other side. Actually, there's a third reason. The third reason is that I like to see some of the page protruding out of the actual book. So on several of my pages, I will do a little something that will stick out past the book itself, and I think that just adds a lot of character. And once this dries well, then I'm just going to take my distress ink and just go along the edge of the page. And I wanted to add a pocket to the other side so that I can add scripture in later, or maybe I want to write a little prayer out or write a note to put inside that. So I wanted to make sure that I had places to add that. And I found some wording that was inside the Thomas Kincaid book that was talking about what the psalmist says, that the mountains declare a silent witness to the Lord, and I thought that would be appropriate to add inside the journal. And so I just glued that to the outside of this pocket. And then, of course, I glued 3 sides of the pocket, leaving the top open so that I would be able to add other things inside there. And then to add more interest and color to the page, I just took a stencil and traced some of that stencil on the page behind where the art would be glued. And then I took a blue colored pencil and just very lightly colored some of those in. And I added my blue to that side and also added a little bit of interest. And then I just glued the other Thomas Kincaid image onto the top of the other page. And I'm sorry, I'm a little out of frame here. I think this one is Winston's fault. He kind of rooted me off the table a little bit. Then I had cut some of the other scripture and verses from that same book, and that will give me some things to add into this page. Then I made a couple of simple bookmarks to go in one side, and then added some other things to dress up the outside of the pocket. And then I stamped some trees on the bottom of this with some green ink, and then drew in some little trunks with some brown colored pencil. And then I took a piece of book page that didn't have any writing on it and stamped a bird in flight on it, and then used some distressed ink around it and glued it to the top part. And then I tied the sleeve together with a very thin piece of leather. And I really like how this one turned out. And even though there's quite a bit on here, there's still room to add more if I find some more scripture that makes me think of this. And I forgot to mention that I did some prayer journaling around the border of this picture. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great evening, and God bless you and your family.